Welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. Hello, and this is Mr. Blows Your Mind, your host, the ALLEGES, bringing you not a live show, but a retake show. It's live while I'm doing it though, right? So, first and foremost, I want to thank all you who should be coming to the show and listen. We're going to change up a little bit the way we do it unless it's live, right? So, first and foremost, this show is to promote, articulate, insinuate, decode, unveil, spread the news, whether by news, video, websites, or quotes from publications. As I, your whiteologist, ask that the creator of the universe be here, heart, mind, soul, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created the so-called greatest land, which they call the United States, we as BADOS, as Black Americans descended of slaves, those who call themselves ADOS, as American descended of slaves, we give honor to our ancestors. And you know what my motto is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. That's right, y'all. Mr. Blows Your Mind is back again with another show to report and tell all the things that's going on. Some of the things we're going to talk about today will be about when a cop pulls a gun on a kid who stole a doll, and you will see how that takes place. We will also talk about how a black cop who was racially profiled but have an excessive amount of money. We'll also talk about 55 shots was considered reasonable when killing Willie MCCOY. We're also going to talk about an 11-year-old who had been tased by police officers, who had got suspended, and somehow the suspension was released or removed. We'll talk about how the Supreme Court has now decided that double jeopardy is not double jeopardy anymore. That there's a stipulation that they're going to put in that may be alarm for some to see. We're going to talk about a history about the Black Highwaymen painters. Have you ever heard of that? Black Highwaymen painters. It's a history you will learn today. And last and not least, we're going to talk about Andrew Jackson. That's right, Harry Tubman was supposed to replace him on the $20 bill, but I seen a story that came out that talked about, Andrew Jackson wasn't so bad after all. Him decided to adopt a son. But wait till you hear the story. Stay tuned as we get ready to do this show. Hey y'all, what it is and what it do, right? It is again another show that I had to put together for you due to the simple fact that I can't do it live, due to the simple fact I got banned again for they say copyright infringement on a video that I had played that was part of the news. So you know what it is. Again, can you imagine of all the channels that is on, those who was live that day, I did have a nice enough a bit of numbers. But guess want to bet your bottom dollar who was all up in here? They was up in here. And so this is what they want. But let me tell you, I'm going to make it better with me being off than being on. So let's get into it, right? So, as you heard a little intro, again, I'm changing that up because, again, I have my live intro for the live show. And then I got to do it because I'm not live, so I'm going to have to do it in this form of fashion. And again, you see some updates and things that I'm now putting into the show to just try to keep it as, until you actually get to see me on here, which is coming soon. If I can ever get past the monotonous of all this nonsense they keep doing. But anyway, first and foremost, what's up, subscribers? Should be happen to be watching the retape. What's good, fam? Matter of fact, I want to give a shout out to, what was the brother name? There's a brother that gave me a message. Let me see if I can pull that up right quick. Brother gave me some encouraging words. Let's say that, see if I can pull it up right quick. Let me pulls it up right quick here, right? And this brother name here, so I'm going to give him a shout out for him, giving me this some encouragement, even though I was going to do it in his way. That's the fight I have to do because, again, I understand why I have to do what I got to do. Well, I guess it's not going to show up on there, right? They're not going to show up on there, so maybe I'll go up here. Let me see if I go over here, will it show? Let me see if I go over here. Go up here, and let's see if I can see the message up in here because the brother did send me a message, right? Let's see. There it goes. Anthony Gordon. I want to thank you for not giving up in peace. He goes on with the second message. Says, we will continue to love and support Mr. Blows Your Mind. Very encouraging words. I want to thank you, brother, for your encouraging words. And again, that is what we do. We have to fight because, again, no one is going to save us. No one is going to inform us. And no one is trying to. So I guess it's incumbent on myself and the spirit that I carry that I have to do my part. And you do your part by sharing, trying to get other people to be informed, have these conversations when you're about people, and let them know about some of the information that you do get from the Mr. Blows Your Mind show. Now, a lot of it is just news, again, pertinent. We as black people don't have the outlets for us to be having those kind of outlets. So it is coming with those who have the ability, articulation, and, and some kind of charisma, character, right? That need to do that because, again, watching the local news sometimes, they're a little dry. Now, this time that's not, it ain't about all that. It's about, again, getting good information about things that you should just be knowing. And that's what we do over here on Black Minds News. Now, let's get into the show. So, again, I'll put it like this, right? Let me put it like this. So, I'm going to play this first. Because I'm pretty sure some people have already heard of it, right? Some people heard this. And, it gets to the point you have to start asking yourself about, is these things that are constantly happening, are these just, circumstances, different places all around this country that we call the United States. And, if you put them all together, it just has a bad look. But is it just a theme that is going across this nation, right? And at one time it was pertaining to about men. Then it kind of switched down to the younger men. Then it went down, triggered to the women. Now it seems like we're seeing stories on the dailies about with the children, right? So look at this. And then I'll play this, and then we should be right back, coming back after that. Make sure everything is all good and copacetic. We'll get into this, right? Set it up for you on there, and I think I should have two, right? Should be two pieces to that, right? So let's go ahead and get in this, and she'll be right back.
Get out the car!
With guns drawn, watch as an officer points directly at the SUV. Inside, Aisha Harper, pregnant with her two daughters.
Put your hands up. Hands up.
I can't put my hands up. I'm pregnant.
Her fiancé, Drayvon Ames, handcuffed.
Wait. When I tell you to do something, you do it. We're not complying with me.
The incident in May because their 4-year-old daughter stole a doll from a nearby dollar store.
I tell you to put your hands up. Baby.
They never mentioned the doll. They automatically came straight to us for force.
They were terrorizing my family, and I just felt hopeless and defenseless.
The family now planning to sue the Phoenix Police Department for $10 million, claiming the officer used excessive force.
They were vicious and they were out for blood. They were just untrained.
According to the police report, one of the officers feared Aisha was reaching for a weapon. But in a statement, the police chief says she's disturbed by the language and actions of our officer. An investigation is now ongoing.
Everybody has rights.
And they violated so many of them.
Molly Hunter, NBC News.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channels.
Couple sues Phoenix for $10 million after cops pull gun on kid who stole dial. You know I'm going to say that again. Couple sues Phoenix for $10 million after cops pull gun on kid who stole dials. This story comes out of New York Post, June the 14th, 2019, and this is how it reads. Phoenix couple was reportedly suing that city for $10 million, alleging they were unlawfully arrested after their 4-year-old daughter stole a dial from a store. During the May 29 caught-on-camera confrontation, officers drew their guns on Drayvon Ames and his fiancée, Leisha Harper, after being anonymously tipped off to the youngster's death, according to 12 News and ABC affiliate. The couple only realized their daughter swiped the dial once they left the store, according to a notice of claim filed Wednesday that was obtained by the network. The couple's 1-year-old daughter was also with them at the time. Ames and Harper then took their kids to their babysitters at a nearby apartment complex, which is where police officers approached them. A bystander captured a portion of the arrest on video, which was released by the Phoenix Police Department Tuesday. The footage first shows an officer handling a man believed to be Ames. The man was cuffed while being held to the ground by an officer, then lifted and shoved into a police car. The cop then kicked the man in the right leg and yelled, "When I tell you to do something, you fucking do it," video shows. The man, who appeared to be compliant, said, I'm sorry. Shortly after, another officer with his gun drawn opened the door to couple's car with Harper and her daughter still inside. Get your fucking hands up, that officer at one point repeatedly yells. Once Harper exits the car with their children, the officer lowers their holsters, his weapon. Harper eventually handed her kids off to an unidentified woman before being cuffed herself. Amid the confrontation, one of the officers allegedly told Harper, "I could have shot you in front of your fucking kids," according to the notice of complaint. Phoenix police are conducting an internal probe of the incident, according to NBC News. The Phoenix Police Department takes all allegations of misconduct seriously, and for this reason, the incident is currently being investigated by the Professional Standard Bureau, a police statement said. The couple suit alleges the officers committed battery, unlawful imprisonment, false arrest, and other civil rights violations. All right, so we back, right? So we see Mr. Officer was doing a job, right? Mr. Officer was doing him job, right? So, see, there was a story done in Phoenix talking about the couple who went in, a mother and father who went into a store. And they had a 4-year-old daughter who they said they had picked up an item, a doll, in the store, right? And accordingly, this had been doing around about May 29th of this year. They said it was caught on camera, right? I guess this situation was caught on camera, but not that incident, because again, accordingly, how the police got involved was somebody anonymously tipped them off. Now, who else could this have been other than the damn store, right? Who else could have had this shit other than the damn store? So we had to say anonymously, right? Right? Now, again, black people do not condone unrighteousness. We don't give credibility to people who do wrong, right? Right or wrong, when you're wrong, you're wrong. You're right, you're right. Now, in this case here, we're talking about a 4-year-old. You know how stores, when you go in there, are designed in such a way that antagonizes children. You know what I'm talking about? They antagonize children because, again, think about, those who come from a certain time. You just go to the store, parents had that little pep talk with you when the damn car. We go to the damn store. I ain't got no money. Don't be picking up shit. I only got this kind of money. We ain't here to do that shit, right? You done got this. You done got the pep talk. The coach done talk to the team. We about to go to the game and get the game over. We're gonna get up out of here. But guess what happens? Parent or whatever, mother, father, whoever it is, auntie, whoever you're in the store with, you're going around and they shopping, they doing what they do, and somehow kids find slipping and get over by the toy section, right? See something they see, they glean that. Can I have this? No, put that back. Go that whole route, right? So after you done wrestle with all that and try to get them back, and they upset about the fact that they couldn't get the toy here, maybe seen some over here, some over there. But as you go to check out, what do they got right before you check it out? What's right there? Candy. All looking delicious and everything that you want to taste as a kid. Big suckers. All that shit right there, right? And here a parent, no, I ain't got no money. And now the kid gonna pick up something, right? Now again, this is the way it used to be. And I'm not saying it still ain't that way. But that is just the ritual aspect of when you going in the store when you got little ones. Now somebody 4 years old are learning right and wrong. They don't got the game down. That's why, black people believed in kind of a spanking, right? Because again, we got whipped by the white man. So we somehow inculcated that into our philosophy of how we rear. And then the Bible told us that spare the rod, spoil the child. So we say, well, I guess God has ordained this, so I guess it's good. But then white man law will say spanking, put your ass in jail, right? Now, y'all heard that last video. I had to yell at a boy because he was back there doing something. But again, I ain't ashamed of that, right? Because I have to rear at times, right? So anyway. So a 4-year-old don't understand all that. So can it be that parents, minding their business, already know they ain't got a lot of money, barely got whatever they're trying to get, came in there, seen some stuff, and walked out, right? Has that ever happened where somehow somebody get in the car or whatever, you say, oh, boy, how you get that? Walked about this stuff. Well, stole that. Now, some parents take the child, walk them right back in there, give it back. Some of them are like, they already on their way. Didn't recognize you had what you had. Ah, shit. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Now, the story talks about there was also a 1-year-old there. Now, I'm going to talk about that a little later as we talk about that. There's a reason why that 1-year-old, you have to say, okay, right? 1-year-old was there, right? Okay? So that's setting something up. But anyway, let's move on. So again, according to by May 29th, this situation happened. And you see that again, because this anonymous tip that you end up seeing getting accosted that you seen in the video. You see Drayvon Ames and see his fiance, what he call Leisha Harper, right? And they're being accosted because they said again, they left from where they were there. And they end up going again. They was taking the children to go to the babysitters, right? And they get there, police all out, guns all drawn. You've seen what you've seen on the video there, right? And, again, is it merited for police officers to be that aggressive on a situation that's really not as dire as you make it out to be, right? So let me tell you something about in Arizona, about petty theft in Arizona, what it says. Now, it says defining theft under Arizona law. It says in the state of Arizona, a person commits the crime of theft by knowingly and without lawful authority to do so, taking any of the following action. Now, I'm going to tell you what some of these actions is, right? It says controlling another person's property with the intent to deprive them other property, yeah, that's stealing. Yeah, we ain't gonna do this. Using another person's property or services for an unauthorized period of time. Okay, it happens all the time. Obtaining another person's property and services, though material misrepresentation, i.e. fraud. Controlling lost property without reasonable attempting to find its owner. Controlling stolen property. Obtaining I think it says compensatable services without paying or agreeing pays to services, right? Now it goes into the classification and punishment for theft in Arizona. It says, depending on the dollar value of the item involved in the theft, as well as the circumstances surrounding the offense, the crime can be classified as a misdemeanor or felony under Arizona law. If the offender has no previous felony convictions, Arizona law dictates that he or she receives the presumptive sentence for the felony theft conviction, unless certain aggravating or mitigating factors exist to justify sentences other than the presumptive sentence. In most cases, the presumptive sentence is the mid-range sentence between the possible minimum and maximum sentence for a crime. For example, the presumptive sentence for a Class 6 felony is 1 year, with the maximum sentence being 2 years and minimum sentence being 4 months. Now, a Class 1 misdemeanor theft is considered like this. Check this out. The theft of any property or services valued at less than $1,000 is a Class 1 misdemeanor in the state of Arizona, which is the lowest level theft offense under Arizona law. This is sometimes known as what? Petty theft. However, if the offender takes the property directly from a person, if the property is a firearm, or if the property is an animal taken from the purpose of an animal fighting, the theft may be bumped up to a Class 6 felony regardless of the value of the property. Theft of the property valued at $1,000 or less constitute a Class 1 misdemeanor in Arizona, which is punishable by up to 6 months of incarceration and a fine of not more than $2,500. The court also may order the payment of restitution, meaning the offender must reimburse the theft victim for the value of the stolen property. Now, the dial that was taken, right? The dial that was taken, was that dial $1,000? It was under the limit. It was petty theft. What was the value of that dial? Right? Is people so programmed today to actually not understand that children will go in stores and have sticky fingers and pick up, and there's times where parents' minds is preoccupied with other things that they're not trying to do all that, you understand, not recognizing that, you know, they may have picked up something. And yes, it may be incumbent on the parent once they figured out to do it. But again, did you allow them to do that? Because they was just getting to where they was going. How did you know when they knew? You don't know. So why is it this rush to judgment with guns drawn on a dial? What rationale can you make that says that you as a police officer are accosting a family with your guns drawn for petty theft? How does you justify that? Right? And then if it wasn't for a bystander, then that's why I say as black folks, when we see our people being accosted by police officers, it is incumbent. It is considered a black community. Let's say this. It is considered a black community family that if it's not something in mercy, somewhere you got to just be, that you sit there. You be observant. Even if you can't record, you are recording with your eyes and mind. Right? So we see that this individual here, based on the fact that they took what they did, but they only showed you a small part, didn't give you everything, that somehow I'm thinking, how did the police department get the video footage and release it? If the person who was this bystander, how did they give it to you so quickly? You understand what I'm saying? How did they give it to you so quickly? Did you confiscate it from them, took it, and then you the one presented it, and then again, it's only showing a part that you only wanted to show? Was you roughhousing up Mr. Ames? You see him rough handling him, kicking his legs, right? And then the cop then kicks the man in his right legs, and then he yells, when I tell you to do something, you fucking do it. Wait a minute. Why is it that people acting as if you ain't talking to grown folks? Where is the rationale that, again, isn't it always said something about to get respect is to earn respect? Now, you want a situation that is petty theft, that, again, announcement you've been told. What did they lie and say? Did they say something entirely different? Maybe that's what we don't understand. Maybe the person who told the police officers anonymously who they're hiding, that maybe they said something else. Because that would only make the reason to justify why these cops came with the guns all drawn. Because if it was about a doubt, why are y'all coming guns blazing drawn? Ready to blaze. I ain't going to say blazing. Guns drawn, ready, finger itching to blaze. You understand? And to the fact that the man is scared out his mind by saying, I'm sorry. So do you get a kick out of seeing people with this fear? That's some bully type shit, right? You like seeing people in fear and it gets your rocks off. Because if you can't, in my eye, if you can't justify the fact that you knew that this was nothing but a petty theft and about a down, and y'all came like that, then you show who you were from the inside outwardly, even though y'all think y'all be hiding who y'all is. Need I say that again? If they knew what they knew prior to them accosting this family, knowing it was a down and petty theft, and came with guns drawn, ready to blaze, then you already showed what was in your intent when you got there. If that comes to be revealed that what that is, then you showed who you was, right? So it goes on, get your fucking hands up, right? Now this is the one talking to the mama inside the car with the kids in the car. He's talking to her like that. She's like, well, wait a minute, I'm pregnant. I can't, you know what I'm saying? She trying to, again, what they say, music trying to soothe the savage beast. The music that come out of our mouth have to be at such a tone, like music, to seep into the mind of this deranged, crazy ass motherfucker who got shit in his mind. He's talking to another grown man, talking about you do like you my fucking kid. You do as I fucking tell you to do. Yet the situation does not merit what you are doing. So where's the rationale in the mind of the officers? You have none. Huh? You can't have any. Until repeatedly get your fucking hands up to a mama and her children. That the mama swelled up. She got up in the face. You know, like we seen her El Janae, right? In Texas. You had guns she can get. Huh? But I do not condone you doing that. But I understand. You get what I'm saying? I understand. So we see that based on this, the department says that the Phoenix Police Department takes all allegations of misconduct seriously. The incident is currently being investigated by a professional standard bureau, right? So we see that they said, fuck it, we want $10 million. My life felt threatened. You violated so many other different things, right? You put gun to my family, me, my fiance, and my children. You had no compassion for the situation whatsoever. And it's all being caught. As again, the all-seeing eyes catching everything. So it's to the point that you may say what you say out your mouth, but your actions show what you are internally. And we all seeing it. So this to be continued, y'all. We'll see how this is going to play itself out, right? We know how that goes, right? So again, that's how we're going to start the show off, right? Start the show off like that. So that's how it goes, y'all. A mishap by children, or even if it was intent, let's give hypotheticals on this. Even if it was a situation where they was going in to steal, a little dab, but why not get one for the 1-year-old? And that's what I want to go back to. See, they say if it was something in cahoots, how could one get one and the other one don't get one? Feel what I'm saying? How could the 4-year-old get it and the 1-year-old knowing don't try to get one too. So that means the 4-year-old was getting one and the 1-year-old had no knowledge of it, just like the parents didn't have no knowledge of it. You understand? And that's who wrote the stories. That's why they put that in there. Well, it was a 1-year-old there too. You think the 1-year-old wouldn't want a dial too? How you going to split the dial? A 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. They're going to fight over that. See? But somebody else don't have the rationale. But again, what needs to be revealed is the call of the anonymous person, right? That's why they're starting to make this law now about people calling these 911s and how you now can be, taking a small claims court, $10,000 is the max in small claim court. So some people say, well, that's a good and it's a beginning. I'm not saying what this is or not. I'm just saying, but that's the penalty that's happening now with people who call the 911 falsely, right? But again, that's what the only way these cops seem to me that you're going to be able to get out of it. Whatever the anonymous person who called and said what they said, did it merit the aggressiveness that's how y'all came? If not, that job is gone. Y'all out of here. Moving on. All right, so start the show off with that. I got some more to go on here to give you, right? And, before I get to the next part here, I got to give a little something here. It ain't like it's a show we all sitting together, right? So we just kind of sitting over here, right? So I got this here coming in and put it like this. Again, another theme has to do with, the boys in blue, right? Now, again, there's the pros and the cons. The pros is they are needed at times when you need assistance in situations that's out of hand and who you going to call, right? Who you going to call, right? You're going to may have to call them. But then there's the times when it's these other situations and where other people coming in with this, this heightened and, this feel of empowerment and superiority, and I can do what I want to do because I have authoritative power to do what I choose, and I have a discretion I can hide under, right? So what happens when boy in blue meets boy in blue, but his ain't really blue, but his is kind of black, and this situation happens, and even in this situation, it's like, damn. Well, let me just let y'all, I'm going to hear this. This is just a news story first. And I'll play this and be right back. Check this out, though. Check this out. Black Detroit cop says he was profiled for having large sums of cash. You know I'm going to say that again. Black Detroit cop says he was profiled for having large sums of cash. This story was done in the NBC News, June the 16th, 2019, and this is how it reads. The Detroit Police Department has launched an internal investigation after a black veteran officer said he was racially profiled by a white officer for allegedly carrying too much money. Christopher Williams, who has been with the department for almost 15 years, was among 100 or so plainclothes officers at a city police training center on June 6 to log hours for annual requirements. Ty Perkins, Williams' attorney, told NBC News on Sunday that the officer was in possession of about $5,000 that his girlfriend, who was also an officer, had asked him to hold. Williams' girlfriend attended the June 6 training and had withdrawn the money during her lunch break to purchase money orders to pay her bills, according to Perkins. At the end of the day-long training, Williams said he encountered a white officer in the bathroom who saw him shoving money into his pocket. As Williams exited the training center with his girlfriend and walked to the parking lot, he said he was approached by the white officer who allegedly grabbed him, threw him up against a fence, and handcuffed him. Williams said the white officer, who had been with the department for 3 years, told him, "You're not supposed to have that kind of money," according to his attorney. After Williams' girlfriend showed the white officer her bank withdrawal receipt, he let Williams go, Perkins said. Assistant Police Chief James White said Friday that the incident is under investigation and that he was not asserting blame prematurely. "I'd like to see what happened," White said in a video posted to the department Facebook page. "To say that it's a racial component, I've got someone in the bathroom with a very large sum of money on him, and inquiring is being made as to where did you get the money. That's not unreasonable to me." White said the racism of the officer does not cause him great concern, unless it is determined that the actions of the white officers, whose identity has not been disclosed, here racially motivated. Has said that on June 6th, there was a ribbon cutting for a new fitness center at the training facility, and there were people in the building who are not officers. One of the things that I be trying to find out is at what point did the officer identify himself as a police officer, which is required by our policy, that once you engage in confrontation or conversation relative to an investigation, you should identify yourself as a member of our agency, White said. Perkins said the white officer did not identify himself as an officer before handcuffing his client. White also said in the video, the second thing that we would look at is its large sum of money. Where did it come from? Where did he have it? That's a reasonable question for someone who's in a restroom counting money in a building that's open at that time. Perkins said White's response was shameful and that it requires his clients to defend having money. "My client was injured by this mentally," Perkins said. "He's distraught. There has to be some ruination that comes to my client. He doesn't want this to happen to anyone." Both White and Perkins said it was ironic that this incident occurred at a center where diversity training is among the requirements. All right, so a cop who is black and got a woman who is also black and an officer has the annual kind of, how they had no annual meetings, or we had to have this annual testings that sometimes some jobs are required to do. And so they decide that they're going together. We a couple, we get together, right? And so they go there, and this, situation seems to be like, let me see something here. Say this situation seems to be like, for the police department, this is where they go, right? And primarily everybody is there. As you heard in the article, it talks about, they were having a ribbon cutting ceremony. Let's say that again. There was a ribbon cutting service about a fitness center that they were opening up. Primarily, this is probably where cops go. It's all cops there, and this is the place they go where it says also for diversity training. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, right? So we see that the individual tells us a story, says that again, they both were going, and primarily, sisters always, keeping their mind on about bills and stuff like that. You know, that's kind of what that partnership is there. They tell you got a good woman. She makes sure you know, hey, bills due, gotta get the money, you know what I'm saying? That's the bookkeeper, right? So sister said, you know, on her lunch break, she ran over to the bank, got about $5,000, right? Gonna take care of some bills after the fact. She was talking about getting some money orders and things of that sort. Okay, cool. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Somehow she decides she gonna give the money to my man. You hold this money for me because, you know, I'll get. We not, so maybe they working out in it. Maybe they, you know, they gotta do something. Remember, he's a veteran. I remember that. Remember that he's a veteran, right? And so he has the money, goes to the washroom, right? And somehow he's putting monies, saying, you know, white cop come in there, sees the Negro in there, right? Older Negro in there, and he's got money in his hand, he's stuffing his pockets. So white guy in his mind is like, hey, it's kind of peculiar. Nigga got money stuffing like that in his pocket. Where the hell you get this money from? And you know what I'm saying? But shouldn't automatically in your head be like, is he a cop? Now he a veteran. Now, you know, Detroit is pretty big. I'm not going to say every cop know every cop, but wouldn't it just be, okay, we had a ribbon cutting service. It's a police training service place, right? What is the high probability of just not being a cop? Hey, you a cop? Right? Hey, you a cop? No, okay. No, that's not what he do. So again, he is considered what they say reasonable cause. Now, let's see what reasonable cause says. It says, reasonable cause is a basis for arrest without warrant. Such a state of facts, it would lead man of ordinary care and prudence to believe and consciously entertain honest and strong suspicion that person sought to be arrested is guilty of committing a crime. What about reasonable belief? Reasonable belief or probable cause to make an arrest without a warrant exists when facts and circumstance within arresting officer's knowledge and of which he had reasonably trustworthy information are sufficient in themselves to justify a man of average caution and belief that a felony has been or is being committed. So a black man having money stuff in his pockets is reasonable cause. Right? That's reasonable cause. Hey, where the nigga getting all this money from? Where the nigga getting all this money from? It's suspicious. Nigga shouldn't have that kind of money in his hand, right? So what happens? So they say, again, brother name is Christopher Williams. Don't wake me, I'm dreaming. Yeah, he was dreaming, wasn't he? Christopher Williams, right? So you see Christopher Williams again, he's been 15 years, been on the department for 15 years. They said there was about 100 or so plainclothes officers, right? There was a police training center for annual requirement. Okay? Again, what's the possibility of him possibly being a damn policeman? So we see that they decided to go to the parking lot. They ain't done finished what they did. But Barney Fife ain't forgot nothing. Barney Fife like, Andy. You know what I'm saying? Andy like, Barney, go on with your one bullet ass. I ain't going to do it on his own. So guess what he do? He coasted them. Hey, grab a man. Throw him up against the fence. Old T.J. Hooker, old movie, right? Throw him up against the fence. Throw the cuffs up on him. Never introduce who he was, right? That could have went ugly. Well, my man, what if she ain't pull gun? See that power, that whiteness? They both cops. None of them drawing like, who the fuck is this motherfucker grabbing the boy? Nothing. They ain't even thought in their mind, cause him white. Don't even think of that. Huh? So, what happens? Identify yourself. Where is this money? You ain't supposed to have that kind of money. Where are you niggas getting all this money from? You stealing it? selling drugs, right? You're not supposed to have that kind of money, right? So what does the sister do? Let me prove it to you. Here's my bank. I was going to do this. Cops explaining themselves. And yet you cop like him a cop. See? So is it? We need them on the force, don't get me wrong. But we see there's two different ways of how they look at it. You could be a cop and still get treated just like a civilian. Don't matter because you're a cop. You just black. And you was reasonable suspicion, reasonable belief that we think you guilty. So what happens? You go through it. So now you decide you're going to file a lawsuit for racial, right? You say, well, this is racial profiling. So did you hear how the individual, the chief, James White, all names to have, Mr. White. Mr. White says, I'm not asserting blame prematurely. I'm not going to jump out the window and say it was racially profiling because, well, to say that it's racial components, I've got someone in the bathroom with a very large sum of money on him and inquiring is it being made as to where did you get the money. That's not unreasonable to me. Damn, you at a police facility, a ribbon cutting. This is where you train at. This is where they do the annual thing. This is where they do diversity training at. What does it not rationale in the mind to let me figure out that this motherfucker might even be a cop? He might be a goddamn cop. No, okay. So he says, well, now Mr. White, the chief, right, James White, says, that's no great concern about the racial part. That's no great concern to me. He says, well, unless it's determined that the actions of the white officer whose identity has not been disclosed, no, they're going to disclose him. Anonymity, huh? You're going to get that. Well, racially motivated. What do you mean racially motivated? Again, they always play in the gray area. Your actions led to you not even trying to even identify to even figure out whether he a cop. Do he belong here? Then you could proceed on. Once you find out he's not a cop, maybe you could. But if you'd have found he's a cop, you'd have backed up. Oh, okay. Oh, never mind. You know what I'm saying? But no, Barney Fife want to try to show Andy, right? He just like Andy. Huh? He want to have his own show. He want to be whistling, picking up fish and shit, right? Anyway, so you see that again. Mr. White says, well, it was a ribbon cutting for a new fitness center. People who were in the building were not all officers. Wait a minute. You acknowledge it's a ribbon cutting ceremony. Primarily everybody that's there is going to be cops. What makes you not say, identify yourself, and let me let you identify yourself before I go and pursue? Because again, you seen him in the bathroom, but that was the first incident. You wait till he went outside, so you trailed him the whole time. Nothing about what they did made you think they might be cops. All right. So he said, Mr. White said, I'll be trying to find out is at what point did this white officer identify himself as a police officer? According to what the brother said he never identified himself. He said, now, which is required by our policy that once you engage in confrontation or conversation related to an investigation, you should identify yourself as a member of our agency. Right? Right? And you see, Perkins said that the white officer never identified himself. And remember, he grabbed him, slammed him up on the fence, and threw the cuffs on him. It wasn't no talk, huh? It wasn't no talk, huh? It wasn't no talk. He just went on and did what he had to do. Then Mr. White goes on and says, the second thing that we need to look at is it's a large sum of money. $5,000. A nigga with $5,000 is a large sum of money, folks. Don't you ever cash your damn tax refund check and the police catch you, you in trouble. And then don't again not have it in cash in hand. You better have it in the debit card or whatever transaction. But not have it in hand. Matter of fact, think about that. That's how Dr. Sebi got caught up over there having money in his briefcase, about $20-something thousand, I think it was, $26,000 in cash. They're going to confiscate that, right? Because, again, I think in the United States, I think if you coming from border to border, again, if you got anything, I think 10,000 or more, you got to report that, right? So anything other than that, you don't really have a limit. So really, is there a law? I try to look and see, was there a law that is against the law? But I know, like, I've seen some reports and articles and videos where people was coming from, let's say, Vegas and had a good winning and they didn't get pulled over by the cops and then can't explain where they got the motherfucking money or talking about some shit. They still confiscate the money till I'm going about their long head. And guess what? It's going to cost you all this money trying to fight to get that money back. And they say, primarily, you never don't get the money back. Because once they confiscate it, so that's like that's game. They can run game all day long. Just like, back in the day, you used to see the big drug bust and they showed all the money. Do you believe all the money got turned in? Matter of fact, what was that movie with Forrest Whitaker that played the dirty chief of cop, right? And then I think it was a white boy that played with the I think that was Training Day, right? Was it Training Day? It might have been Training Day, right? But anyway, right? So y'all be turning all the money. So there's a lot of perks being a cop, right? But in the case here, wait a minute. Something should say, wait a minute. Okay, you got all this money. Before I go in, you a cop, man? Right? But something blinds you to not even want to even ask that, was you a cop or not? It was all about, nigga got all this goddamn money. Where you get all this damn money from? And then, based on what Mr. White said, that's a reasonable question for someone who's in a arresting room counting money in a building that's open at that time. It's reasonable for him to question. Why wasn't it reasonable to ask him, are you a cop? You understand? So that's why Mr. Perkins said, the lawyer for him said, White's response was shameful. It requires his client to defend his having money. He got to defend. A black person got to defend when you got money, because we said the way we got this system set up, ain't too many of you niggas should be having no money that we should be seeing. And the only way we see it is you just selling drugs, or you just robbed the motherfucking bank, or you just robbed somebody. But nigga ain't gonna have no money like that in his goddamn hand. Huh? Ain't that what they saying? So we see that, the brother setting up and say, well, I'm mentally distraught, rumination. I don't want this to happen to nobody else. But they say, ironically, this same place is where the police center, diversity training is among the requirements for officer. That shit don't work. That's just a formality. You train them up all day long. One day, 2 weeks, 6 months of training versus his whole damn life of being inundated, saturated with hate for another people. You can't get that shit out like that. So who we fooling with that, right? So again, the sister had to go in there and pull out all that to try to show who it was. So again, it's just funny, man. Like, damn, it's obvious. As much as you trying to hide behind the fact that this is what you not and who y'all not is, don't y'all see? Y'all can't see yourselves. You trying to rationale with something that cannot be rationale, because the things that you rationale with, there was other parts to it that would have made that, again, a little bit more sufficient into what you were saying. If all you had to do is ask, man, are you a police officer? I never seen you before, right? But once the sister did that, showed on it, then you went on about your long head. It wasn't even the fact that they didn't even identify themselves as police officer. You had to show your bank statement that you went and that you was going and what you was going to do with it. Then he was like, okay, y'all never even disclosed to y'all, never even said y'all was cops. That should have been the first thing. Hey, wait, motherfucker, we a cop. Slow your roll. No, because they even know that shit don't mean nothing when they are coming at them. Think about it. You never heard once in this story that they said that they identified themselves as police officers as well. Why? Because that shit don't work with them and they know it. Moving on. Yeah, buddy. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. So, got another story for you. Going again down that road with Popo. Popo been hot lately. This shit that just, again, you know, it is what it is. Again, like I said, it's not what they say and not the little policies you put together. It is the action that speaks louder than anything else. It is showing us, you know, what hides beneath. Again, what did Bruce Lee here at the end of the show? We have to break the image that they hide behind. Because that's what they're doing. They're hiding behind the image, doing your dirty work, and then saying it's my job. When really you're getting off your rocks or your hatred, using that as your shield. No point intended. So this story here is a story I had already done back a while back, right? And when people seen it, they was appalled by it because, again, you know, it's a situation, and it's kind of a situation we can see from both sides. But again, excessive, overdoing it is what you have to ask yourself. And then under the circumstance, your rationale is, should you have looked at it a little different, or was it like, this is an opportunity and let's take it? What would you talk about, Mr. Blowman? Let me show you this, and we'll be right back. And again, for those who might be new over here, you know, let me show you a little something, then we're going to move to the next one. Let's do this and move on. Check it out.
Gun. Call it out. What? There's a gun in his lap. See it? Right here. Yep. He's moving. He's not up yet. Hey, keep your hands Go inside. Shit. Hey, keep your hands up. Hands up.
Police fired 55 shots at California man in 3.5 seconds. Reports find it's reasonable. You know I'm going to say that again. Police fired 55 shots at California man in 3.5 seconds. Reports finds it reasonable. This story is coming out of the NBC News, June the 13th, 2019, and this is how it reads. 6 California police officers responded to a call about a man slumped unresponsive in his car, fired off 55 shots at the man in 3.5 seconds, according to an independent use of force report ordered by the city of Vallejo. The report's authors concluded that the tactics used by the Vallejo Police Department officers and Willie McCoy 20 were reasonable based upon my training and experience as a range instructor, as well as through applied human factors psychology. David Blake, police consultant and retired officer, also wrote in the report released this week that the use of deadly force was objectively reasonable and necessary. Given the circumstances of the situation, officers said they saw a handgun on McCoy's lap and believed he was reaching for it when he suddenly woke up. The death of McCoy, a Bay Area rapper, at a Taco Bell drive-thru on February 9th in Vallejo set off demands by the community for police accountability and an independent investigation into the entire department's training and alleged pattern of racial profiling. City officials in April said they were inviting United States Department of Justice mediators to hear from residents and create a community engagement plan. Some residents, however, said more needs to be done in their city. About 122,000 after McCoy became the 16th death involved Vallejo officers since 2011. The highest rate of people shot by police per capita in Northern California. The majority of those killed have been Black and Latino men. The independent report was completed May 17th, almost 2 months after the release of officers' body cam video following pressure by McCoy's family to make them public. The exact number of bullets that each of the 6 officers fired was not previously known, but Blake's report found that Officer Ryan McMahon fired once, while Officer Colin Eaton fired 13 times, Officer Jordan Patzer fired 12 times, Officer Brian Glick and Anthony Romero Cano fired 11 times each, and Officer Mark Thompson fired 7 times. It's unclear how many of those bullets struck McCoy, but family attorneys have said he was struck around 25 times. The 6th officer returned to duty 3 weeks after the shooting. Employees at the Taco Bell called police for a welfare check after they found McCoy unresponsive in his silver Mercedes in the drive-thru. After officers arrived at the scene, they said they discovered the car was locked in the drive and McCoy had a gun on his lap. Police said McCoy's firearm was stolen and his family says he may have had one for protection. The officer on scene devised a plan to block off McCoy's cars inside the drive-thru to prevent any erratic movement. If he woke up, eventually they did see McCoy moving and appearing to scratch his arm. The police body camera video shows. McCoy then jerks up and appears to reach down. Officer shouted, "Show me your hands!" and fired at him within a few seconds. Police Chief Andrew Bideau has called the situation a tragedy. In a 51-page report, Blake noted that he was provided with police reports, interviews given by the police officers, and the body cam footage. The officers in their interview said they were scared and fearful that McCoy was going to shoot at them. Officers are not required to wait until a weapon is pointed at them to take the necessary step to save their own lives, Blake wrote. City Attorney Claudia Quintana said the report, which was made public this week, is separate from the investigation, but Solano County District Attorney Office into the shooting. The death of McCoy is not the outcome that the city of Vallejo of our community desires, she said in the statement. We understand how difficult this situation is for anyone involved. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing, for all persons to go home to their families, and we will continue working hard to identify those strategies that allow us to obtain desirable, favorable outcomes to tough situations like the ones addressed in the report. But Melissa Noyd, an attorney for McCoy's family, said Thursday that the report continues to flaw belief that police should be able to act on their irrational fears and unlawful kill people. She added that it was unreasonable that police expected an untrained sleeping man to awaken from a deep slumber without moving around. She also said that such use of force reports are paid by cities and are by no means independent or unbiased. Blake was hired by Vallejo for up to $8,000 to review officers' use of force in McCoy's death. The Sacramento Police Department said also hired him earlier this year in response to the officers involved shooting of a black man, Stephen Clark, in 2018. The 2 officers in the case were not charged in Clark's death following an investigation by Sacramento County prosecutor. Blake could not immediately be reached for comment Thursday. All right, so we see that it's talking about police fired 55 shots. I thought originally it was 65, right? 65 shots, California man in 3.5 seconds. Reports find that it was reasonable. There's that word again, reasonable. Now, Law Dictionary says that reasonable means fair, proper, just, moderate, suitable, under the circumstances, fit and appropriate to the end in view, having the faculty of reason, rationale, governed by reason, under the influence of reason, agreeable to reason, thinking, speaking, or acting according to the dictates of reason, not immoderate or excessive, being synonymous with the rationale, honest, equitable, fair, suitable, moderate, tolerable. Right? So that's what they're saying, reasonable. Now, again, you just seen the video. Now, again, originally I did this story when it first broke back, when it originally did it about the brother there that was Willie McCoy, right? And it was about, again, went to Taco Bell. Again, maybe he was, under the influence, maybe he had a long night. You know what I'm saying? You know how those, men, we might be coming to and from, right? We're not either from partying, laying up, where it might be, you're trying to start, you hungry or something, whatever, you're going to start get you something to eat, you know what I'm saying? So he done got him some Taco Bell, right? We assume because he in Taco Bell, because then nobody never said whether he had purchased food at Taco Bell. I think that's one thing I'll be looking at. Well, did he purchase? So what was the state of when y'all seen him when he's there? And then he is driving in a Mercedes-Benz, right? Come on. In Mercedes-Benz. It was a good model, right? Like a new model. Didn't say exactly what, right? And so somehow he's sitting in the parking lot, car's idle, been there for a while. Attention is brought to the people in Taco Bell. They call police for a welfare check, right? Now, another time welfare check is when you older people, excessively hot, ain't seen nobody. We don't just say we ain't heard. Can you go over there? Because maybe you out of state. And you call, hey, somebody go over there and do a welfare check, okay? So the officers are going there to see if everything all good, right? You're going there to see if everything all good. You get there, you see a car idling. Through observation, you see that the car's in drive. The man that's in there is knocked the fuck out, right? So you have to think, well, damn, somebody must be excessively tired, high, drunk, to be car still in drive, idling, and knocked out, right? That's first observation. Now, you observing more, they claim, we don't know, we didn't see, we just hear somebody saying there's a gun. Now, accordingly, they say the gun is on his lap. Now, picture this in mind's eye or look at yourself. If a gun is in your lap, right, just keep that in mind. The gun, they say, was in his lap. Now, currently, you see the officer has that light. Now, they got those lights that is excessively will blind your ass, right? They ain't got no regular light. And even if a regular light, if you in a deep stupor sleep, a knocked out, drunk, high ass sleep, and your ass is knocked out, and as you open your eyes, it's like bright as white, right? You don't know what's going on outside of your conscious of yourself because you was unconscious of where the hell you was when you was asleep. So shouldn't it be on the officers recognizing, like, wait a minute, okay, he got a gun, we get that part, but look at me, I'm on him, lights all in the front of me, side of me, and you got it all in my face. Do he know y'all the police? Is it reasonable to make the assessment that an individual, even though y'all want to say, well, the gun he had was a stolen gun, right? That still ain't got nothing to do with the situation. He had a stolen gun. Mama said, well, he had a gun for protection, right? He in California, got a Mercedes-Benz. He is a rapper, right? Not justifying whether the gun is stolen or not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying somebody in that position, under the conditions you see them in, shouldn't there be some precautions in your mind that, wait a minute, do I need to have this light in his face because he already going to be, coming out of a sleep, not really coherent, I'm believing, because just the simple fact of me seeing the car idle in drive, you know what I'm saying? Seeing you knock the fuck out, right? So is there other ways y'all could have dealt with this situation? I believe so. So you're sitting there flashing light. I don't hear nobody tapping on the window. Hey, buddy. Hey. Like somebody could have been in the back tapping on it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all could have. There's other ways you could have dealt with that situation. You were calling for a welfare. You see that my man is out. But he's black. He got a gun. That's it. That's all we need. Everybody line up. Here's your chance. Right? So here he is coming out of his stupor, out of his sleep, moving, stretching, yawning, trying to open his damn eyes and recognize he's opening his eye, but it's a goddamn light. Somebody shine a light. Now you see they slowed the video down to show you that he's moving. Now remember, when you see him moving, that's his left hand going downwards. You ain't going down if your gun is in your lap. Let me say that again. When you go back, if you should go back and look at that video again, you see that brother, yeah, he turning, right? He might be turning. We can't say whether he reaching or going for something, but lights in his hand. How did he know motherfuckers ain't about to rob him and kill him? Couldn't have been something, get on the damn hall, hey, this the police. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of other things you probably could have did. You need to wake up. You know, There's a lot of things you could have did. But all of y'all sitting around him, gun drawn on his passenger on the passenger side, driver's side, motherfuckers in the front, right? He's surrounded. He wakes up out of whether he high, drunk, sleep, tired, whatever it was, and he just engulfed with lights. He don't see nobody. He feel like he in danger, which he was, right? He was in danger. So, so let's look at this, right? So they say that it's reasonable. Did everybody had to get it off? Did everybody had to get off? Did everybody had to be in position to shoot? Is the question. Why? Okay, check this out. Now, dude in the passenger side, right? If he's shooting at him, right? Dude's in front shooting and you on the side. Couldn't one of y'all shoot each other? Couldn't have been a possibility, because if you look again, you see where one cop is coming across one dude. He's about to shoot. He's like, oh, he push him to the side. Damn, boy, I'm about to shoot your ass. Huh? Recklessness. Everybody itching for trying to bag a nigga like old Tess with the goddamn black giraffe, right? Everybody trying to bag a nigga, right? So they say that, matter of fact, in this motherfucking city of Valley Ho, they said, shit, for the last 8 years, 2 people get killed by the police. That's every 182.5 days. Police killing a mug in Valley Ho for the last, since 2011 up till 2019, right? So is that low? Is that like, well, boy, it's just one. Hawk. Remember Hawk? It's just one, right? So again, you see that the officers, they even tell you how many they got off. Did it take for Ryan McMahon, who only fired once? You know why? Probably he the one got one, because dude was in his way. He didn't end up shooting his ass, right? That's probably why Ryan McMahon only fired once. Colin Eaton fired 13. Jordan Patzer fired 12. Brian Glick and Anthony Romero Cannon fired 11. Officer Mark Thomas fired 7. I mean, huh? Did it take all that for a welfare check? And then to see that, then it's like, well, damn, okay, put ourselves in a better position. If he does, we could gut him from behind if he don't act right. Huh? Y'all could have been from behind. Dude, sleep, man. Y'all made sure he went back to sleep for good. But you say it's reasonable. See, hiding, man. But you ain't got nowhere to hide when it's time for y'all to get in that goddamn box. Ain't gonna be no more hiding. No more hiding. Ain't no this white man justice. Ain't none of that shit gonna work. What was he saying? He said, you know, one day they're gonna fuck us in the ass and gonna keep fucking. But for now, wee! That's it. Wee! Have your wee now. Cause you ain't no justification. Do y'all not understand? We see things way different than the way y'all see it. And 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times, we be right. So if that be the case, if we the juror, when you have to be like your turn, when you in the box and we there, y'all already know what it is. That's why y'all throw that damn hand signal up. You already know what you got. You already got that. But I tell you, our Father in heaven has got a plan for that. You ain't getting out that easy. You want to keep thinking that shit. So anyway, so that brother lost his life on a welfare check call that probably could have been handled a little different. To say we fear did take all of them to be in the proximity to even have your life threatened if he's sitting in a damn car and y'all on the outside. It didn't take all that. You got a dude on the other side shooting at him. You on that side. Couldn't he somehow fuck around, shoot you? Dude in the front, fuck around. They could have fucked. Huh? Anyway, man, moving on, right? Moving on. That's their logic, right? That's how they rationale. That's logical. It's logical. It's reasonable. The way you see it, yeah, everything reasonable the way you see it. So, what about this situation? What are we going to see? Let me play it first. So, again, say reasonable, right? We read what was said in the law and black laws. We talk about what was reasonable, right? Fair justice, right? We did all that, right? So, again, we had earlier started the show. We talk about, 4-year-old going to start pick up something. Then the parents are getting third degree about something the children did that was excessive, right? You see that the Valho, again, man, sleep in his car. We don't know the all ins and out about all that, what took place. Nobody never said nothing about toxicology report. Now, I ain't heard nothing about whether they had drugs and system. I didn't hear none of that yet. I have to probably go back and do some research on that again, right? But you didn't hear nothing about that. But it was a welfare check. So, what about this here? Again, children steal. Everybody did it at once upon a time. Right? Everybody did it. Picked up something. Shit, unconsciously could steal a pen from somebody. They didn't recognize you did it, right? It happens. So, situation, younger get caught up. They don't know how to respond in the way as adults do. You the adult, you should understand that. But maybe just, again, always itching for a scratch. Because you want to be able to go to your barbecue and talk about shit. So you do shit like this. So let me show what I'm talking about. Be right back. Let me see if I got something. Let me go and show this one this time. And we'll be right back. Check this out.
Why would they even do such a thing?
Donna Gowdy describes the moment her 11-year-old daughter was tased.
She fell down and rolled over and was shivering.
Donisha caught shoplifting snacks from this Kroger Monday night.
And I got up there when I couldn't really breathe.
I'm not saying what she did was cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm not vouching for that. But the way he went about it was totally wrong.
The security guard was an off-duty Cincinnati cop, currently on restricted duty following the incident. Police policy states a taser may be used on a suspect over age 7 or under 70, but also that officers should consider the severity of the crime. The city is now reconsidering that policy.
I can see no reason why an 11-year-old child would be tasered. given the circumstances for shoplifting.
The police union is defending the officer and current policy.
I would hate to see the procedure change to a certain age that restricts an officer from using a taser and have something really tragic happen.
Taser manufacturer Axon purposely leaves its guidelines vague.
Age is going to be an improper gauge of when you could use a taser weapon because the age really doesn't tell you how big they are. It doesn't give you an indicator of when you could use it or not use it.
Tonight, charges against the fifth grader have been dropped, but her mother worries this could have ended much worse. Blake McCoy, NBC News.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our
officer who used stun gun on child wins appeal of suspension. You know I'm going to say that again. Officer who used stun gun on child wins appeal on suspension. This story was done in the New York Post, June the 13th, 2019. And this is how it reads. Cincinnati. A Cincinnati police officer suspended after using a stun gun to shock an 11-year-old girl he suspected of stealing from a supermarket and who ignored his commands to stop has successfully appealed his 7-day suspension. An arbiter recently determined the city policy in effect when the officer shocked the girl in August of 2018 allowed officers to use a stun gun on children as young as 7, and the officer didn't use excessive force. The policy was updated this year to direct officers to avoid using a stun gun or other non-lethal force on young children except in exceptional circumstances. Dan Hill, president of the Fraternal Order of Police, says the officer will receive wages lost during his suspension. A message seeking comment was left for the city law department. All right, so we back, right? So again, the other police officer, again, was working part-time for the grocery store Kroger's, it looks like. And again, like I said, curiosity and just sometimes the mischievousness that, when you growing up, don't have a lot. Sometimes this is kind of the rites of passage that you kind of find out how to do right and wrong. You got to go through getting caught to find out if that's what you like to do or something you're going to prevent from not doing anymore, right? We don't condone, again, as you heard the mother say, I ain't condoning the fact what she did. I'm just saying the way he handled the situation, that's how we looking at it. Why is it that how we look at it is different the way you look at it? Because, again, I have to say, black people, again, corporal punishment was instituted in us by white folks, whipping us, beating us, hanging us, right? And then give us the Bible, and the Bible tells us that spoil a child, spare the rod. But when it comes to you and y'all children, y'all seem like that is the most cruelest, heinous thing that could ever be done. You don't discipline, but they'll come and shoot up a whole goddamn school, right? They be mass murderers and rapists and all that shit, right? Serial killers and all that good shit, right? Due to the simple fact, do most white motherfuckers even know what an ass whooping feel like? Other than getting, sports and getting to a fight and then that happen. But we're talking about rearing up, right? So when is we going to start seeing white children getting the same shit that you're doing to black children? Remember the little girl that was in class, grown-ass white motherfucker tackling the damn little girl because, again, she, again, if you know us and see you not being with us, gonna get a little attitude, turn your mouth, smacking your teeth and all that other shit. We understand what that is, but I don't know how to deal with you. You understand? But you seen in a way that's threatening your so-called, your ego, and then you have to show everybody else to keep everybody else intact. Just like the last story I did about a couple shows back, where the dude tasered lies that the boy was attacking him. The boy was nowhere within the vicinity of him, right? So here was a situation. 11-year-old was stealing something out of a store. Kroger again. What is it? Petty theft under $1,000, right? Petty theft. Kids steal something hungry. You got to think. Were they hungry? Okay, yeah, we got to teach them a lesson. But again, your ass can't run, right? You can't run. They can't run no more, right? You ain't gonna try to do it. You're just gonna tase it. You've been itching to use the taser, and here was your opportunity. Bam! So you get suspended on it, right? And so again, we already know what the politically correctness gonna come out, that he was justified what he was doing, right? Well, if you wouldn't have been stealing, he wouldn't have had to tase you. And according, we have policy that says from seven above up to 70. We can do from 7 to 70. Sound like old thing we used to say from 8 to 80, blind, crippled, and crazy. Remember, they said 8 to 80, blind, crippled, and crazy. Well, they say from 7 to 70, you can get tased, right? You can get tased from 7 to 70. You don't think that those voltage? Now I got tasered too, right? Motherfucker say about $250,000, 250,000 volts in that motherfucker, right? You ever seen this movie with Samuel L. Jackson? Was the torture motherfucker? You ever seen that movie? I can't think of the name of the title of it, right? So that's basically what it is. Motherfuckers done minimize the torture down to somewhere it can be compact and can be deployed as something as a tool. And it's really a torture tactic, right? Because you can excessively torture a motherfucker to death. Well, this motherfucker just think you just need somebody, again, just gets kindly doing it to you, right? And then when they come to find out, oh, well, you had bad health, so that contributed to the fact that it wasn't just for the taser, right? The rationale that motherfuckers use and then talk to us like we stupid. No, we ain't stupid. It's just the simple fact that you try to rationalize lies. That's why you don't like truth, because you can't lie with the truth. The truth is straight. It don't curve. It don't bend. It don't twist. It don't turn. It is what it is. But you can't deal with what it is, what it is. You got to make some kind of, what they say, but, should, and, anything, something in the middle, gray area. Now it just can't be straight yes, straight no. It don't work like that. It don't work like that. So again, the discretion under the police officer felt like he was merited in doing what he's doing. But again, looking at it in hindsight, we would say, okay, well, we seen 11-year-old white girls getting tased, 8-year-old little white boys putting spit masks on their damn heads, seeing cops tackling up a little tackling up white girl, chasing another little white boy with a gun. Then we'd be like, okay, well, everybody getting it. But we don't see that. So we know it's just one side to us. But y'all think like talking to us and then come out and pull a story out once in a while. Look, see? Man, get out of here with that, right? Whatever, right? We know better than that. So again, he gonna get suspended because they don't want it on his record. So it's good. It is what it is. What do we expect? That's their rules. That's their game. Right? We understand our history here and what's going on here. So to have the formalities to make it seem like it's some real judicialness about it, it's a farce. It's really just a fucking farce. Moving on. All right. Let's see where I'm at. I got a couple more for you here. We got a couple more, right? Couple more. Now, this one here, I had to bring this for the simple fact that, this can always have implications more about towards us than anybody else, right? You ever heard the term double jeopardy, right? Double jeopardy, right? What is double jeopardy? Let me give it to you what it says in law, right? I think double jeopardy says this in law, right? It says that the Fifth Amendment guarantees enforceable act against states through 14th Amendments, protects against second prosecution for same offense after acquittal of or conviction, and against multiple punishment for the same offense. The evil sought to be avoided is double trial and double conviction, not necessarily double punishment. Okay? So basically, this story here is going to deal with the fact about double jeopardy and what the Supreme Court had just came up with. And there's a story behind it. And let me play this for you. It'll be right Do I get right back on that, or do this one? I think that was just one, right? Okay, I was going to jump the gun. I'm glad I caught that. All right, so let me take this back up here. Take that back up here, because I think it should just be the one, right? No, I should have two. This should be two. I think this should be, hopefully this is right, y'all. So let me see this. Play this and be right back. Check this out.
As the term winds down, NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams is there for us. And Pete, I understand there's some news on a double jeopardy case. What's up?
Right. Well, I think it's common knowledge that there's such a thing as the right against double jeopardy. And by the way, they don't just mow the lawn during live shots at the White House, Hallie. They do it here at the Supreme Court, too. And our timing couldn't be better. But here's the deal. I think everybody knows the double jeopardy rule means you can't be tried twice for the same offense. But there, for at least 150 years, has been an exception to this, which says you can be convicted once in state court and again in federal court for exactly the same offense. That's what happened to a Georgia man here who was charged under a state law, got a year sentence, and then under a federal law for the same offense got a 3-year sentence. He appealed, but the Supreme Court today declined to change that long-standing rule. So you can be charged twice for the same crime, once in state court, once in federal court. The Trump administration and the government had defended this law, saying it was an important tool in the civil rights era, for example. And this case got a lot of attention because of Paul Manafort, on the theory that if the president pardoned him for federal offenses, if he was tried for the same thing at state court, would that have made a difference? But obviously it's a moot point now. And you probably noted that earlier the court did give a partial victory to Oregon bakers who declined to bake a cake for a same-sex commitment ceremony. The Supreme Court today wiped out lower court rulings against that Oregon baker couple and sent the case back with instructions to reconsider in light of its decision 2 years ago in a case involving almost the same set of facts and a Colorado baker. But that case doesn't give much guidance because basically all it says is the Colorado baker got a raw deal from a state commission. Those facts weren't present in the Oregon case. So I don't know what the Oregon courts are going to make of that. The odds are that if the state goes at this again, the bakers will lose again. So I don't know what the Supreme Court gains today. More decisions probably to come later this week. I think we got 4 today, so there's 20 left before the end of next week.
Okay. And I know you'll be there reporting on all of them. Pete Williams, admirably plowing through the weed whacking. Yes, thank you, sir. Appreciate it at the Supreme Court. Okay. Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.
Supreme Court declines to change double jeopardy rule in a case with Manafort implications. You know I'm going to say that again. Supreme Court declines to change double jeopardy rule in a case with Manafort implications. This story was done June the 17th, 2019, coming from NBC News. And this is how it reads. Washington. The Supreme Court declined on Monday to change the long-standing rule that says putting someone under trial more than once for the same crime does not violate the Constitution protection against double jeopardy. A case that drew attention because of its possible implications for President Donald Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort. The 7-2 ruling was a defeat for an Alabama man, Terrence Gamble, convicted of robbery in 2008 and pulled over 7 years later for a traffic violation when police found a handgun in his car. He was prosecuted under Alabama's law barring felons from possessing firearms. The local United States attorney then charged Gamble with violating a similar federal law. Because of the added federal conviction, his prison sentence was extended by nearly 3 years. The Fifth Amendment says no person shall be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb for the same offense. But for more than 160 years, the Supreme Court has ruled that being prosecuted once by a state and again in federal court, or the other way around, for the same crime doesn't violate the protection against double jeopardy because the state and the federal government are separate sovereigns. The case attracted more than usual attention because of the prospect that Trump may pardon Manafort, who was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison for violating federal fraud laws. A presidential pardon could free him from federal prison, but it would not protect him from being prosecuted on similar state charges, which were filed by New York's. Overturning the rule allowing separate prosecution for the same offense would have worked in Manafort's favor. Gamble's lawyers, Louis Charlton of Cleveland, said the nation's founder understood the protection against double jeopardy to ban any second prosecution for the same offense. Under English common law, the roots of American law, there was no separate sovereigns exception. A person could not be put on trial in England if already tried for the same offense in another country. Charlton also argued that the states and the federal government are not truly independent anyway and are instead part of a complete national system. He quoted Alexander Hamilton, who described them as kindred systems, part of one whole. And Charlton said Congress has made the problem worse by dramatically expanding the number and scope of federal laws in recent years, creating more duplications with state laws, something never envisioned in earlier court decisions that allowed double prosecutions. But the Trump administration said the long-standing double jeopardy rule allows states and the federal government to pursue distinct interests without interfering with each other. Changing the current understanding by barring subsequent prosecution would allow foreign court actions to preclude U.S. trials for crimes against Americans, the government said. Civil liberty groups also said the rule has allowed the federal government to pursue notorious civil rights violations that states were unwilling or unable to pursue. Gamble's argument appealed to some of the court's liberals and conservatives. The 2-year ago, conservative Justice Clarence Thomas joined liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in saying that the court's past double jeopardy rulings were due for a fresh examination. All the way back, right? So it says Supreme Court declines to change double jeopardy rule in case with Manafort implications, right? Double jeopardy. Wow. So basically, now they're saying federal and state are separate sovereigns, that if the state gets you or you beat the state, federal can come up with a way that they can get you now, right? Huh? Serious business, right? Because I guess if people trying not to get in jail and trying not to do crime, so I guess who once was in jail, we come back and get you with this time. We got you fed this time we're gonna come get the state, get you, right? And that time the fed state got you, we're gonna come and get the fed. So wait a minute, man. See? Isn't that what the Indian they said Proverbs at the end? They said, trust on no white man to speak up with a forked tongue, right? His word ain't as good as he said, and even the fact of the law, he said, well, there was a part that they would say, well, these are sovereign, these are two different entities, right? So 7-2 ruling, right? There was a 7-2 ruling in it. Again, it was an Alabama man, Terrence Gamble. Again, he was convicted of robbery back in 2008. Seemed like he was pulled over 7 years later for a traffic violation. They use that, again, racial profile. You can be driving in the car. Use the car to pull you over. You ain't got to be doing that. It's his discretion to say whether you're doing something or not. See? Game always rigged, right? So, again, what they do, they find a handgun. Well, again, when you live where we live, most likely, most of them are going to have something because, again, that's just, again, we live in a pull-up culture, right? Trophy hunters taught us well. A lot of the things, again, as I talked about the last show, all the things that have been inculcated. You see Scarface and Godfather and Friday the 13th, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and all these things and video. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's a pull-up culture. So guess what? You can't be caught out here slipping. So again, most likely you post somebody black and they're in those certain vicinities and areas, they're gonna have something on them, right? And they know this. So now if you done had an old case, right, and thought you beat it, now let's find a way to flip it so they can get it the other way and then get you and catch you up with that, right? Or you beat it and say, well, you shouldn't have beat it, right? You know, I mean, I'm not even gonna get too deep in that. You take that for what you need to take it is, right? Double jeopardy. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's basically, you know, OJ, the state of California went after you, but shit, the federal might come after your ass and get you. You understand? That kind of shit, right? I don't know, man. Again, every day, man. If we ain't seeing it, that's why I'm the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. See, everybody else they ain't up on this right now. You up on it because you listening to me. Or if you didn't already know. You understand? This is what they want to break. Because, see, this kind of information, nobody, because they think you need to be an NBC pundit. You have to be somebody who's a scholar. No, we just need to know somebody that somebody told you, heard you again, word of mouth travels. Hey, did you hear? You be hey, man, did you hear? You understand? See, this is what they don't want. Because, again, you up on it. Somebody going through it, like let them know, hey man, you know, they motherfuckers, they starting to pull this bullshit. It is what it is, right? So anyway, moving on. I ain't gonna elaborate too much more on that. That is what it is. That's straight and plain. Motherfuckers willing to drudge up another side and bring it on the other side to get you. Nothing else need to be said. All right, so we're getting closing in on the end parts of the show. We got about 2 more left, and then, you know, I got to give you some history, right? I got to give you some history. Let me give you this history here that you probably never heard of. Okay? You ever heard of these brothers here? They're called the Highwaymen. Right? They were painters in Florida. Had nice skills. And they was going through the Jim Crow era. And they tried to make it happen. And all of a sudden now, people want to, you know, talk about the stuff that they did is now worth valuable. It's valuable now. All right? So let me give you some history that some of you probably hadn't heard. Sit back for a quick minute as it breaks it down as I read it to you. And let me go ahead and for those who might be sitting on their hands, and then let's get into it. Check it out. How Florida's black highwaymen, painters, made a living in the Jim Crow South. You know I'm going to say that again. How Florida's black highwaymen, painters, made a living in the Jim Crow South. This story was done February 15, 2018. Coming from, it looks like, the artsy.net. And this is how it reads. Being an artist is rarely seen as a ticket to prosperity and social mobility. But for Florida's historical highwaymen, a group around 24 black painters who made a living selling their landscape painting out of a car trunk in the Jim Crow South, art was something of a pathway to freedom. From the 1950s through the 1970s, the highwaymen produced over 200,000 paintings of Florida's diverse ecology. Vivid scenes depicting fiery red sunset over aquamarine bays or the scaggy Spanish moss covered bayonet trees stretching over the state's backwater regions. Hawking's their work straight from their car trunks. The group sold paintings to day-tripping tourists along U.S. Route 1 on Florida's Atlantic coast and to predominantly white business owners in the banks, motels, and laundromats of their native Fort Pierce, even as galleries turned them away. Their paintings originally went for $25 to $30 each and were typically sold on the same day they were made, transported into bundles by car or bike in handmade frames, and often still glistening with wet oil paint. Today's painting by the Highwaymen are included in the Smithsonian collections. They can clear 10,000 at auction or in private sales. An original by the group's most predominant figures, Al Black, Alfred Hare, and Harold Newton, who is estimated to have made over 30,000 paintings alone, are covered by a diverse fan base that includes the Obamas and Steven Spielbergs. This little-known history begins with a man named A.E. Beanie Backus, the godfather of the Highwaymen. Backus was born into the racially segregated city of Fort Pierce in 1906, when the town's black and white neighborhoods were divided along train tracks. A largely self-taught artist, Backus created dramatic landscapes with a palette knife, combining what he learned a summer in art classes at Parsons in New York City with his encyclopedic knowledge of Florida's wildlife and his love of his epic thunderstorms. Considered the catalyst of Fort Pierce landscape movement, Backus kept his studio open at all and took on a local student, Alfred Hare, a studio assistant, in 1954. Hare soon graduated from making frames to learning the tools of the trade and developed his own approach to Florida's landscape painting, quickly rendered and dramatically lit scenes with infinite skies. Hare made a name for himself, painting dozens of artwork a day and driving the beachfront strips of Fort Pierce in search of customers. While blasting music by James Brown, he worked at the pace up until his tragic death by gunfire at the age of 29 in 1970. The seeds of the Highwaymen had been sown, with many more schoolboys and girls making pilgrimage to Backus' studio to develop their own artistic careers. Author Gary Monroe, who has written about the Highwaymen, describes a key group of 9 painters emerging from a generous head count of 26 loose members. Those central figures include Harold Newton, James Gibson, Livingston Roberts, Roy McLennan, and Mary Ann Carroll, each with their own unique artistic style and business approach. The group functions sometimes like a social club. They get together at the local dog track with their money they made each day for an evening of hard-earned recreation and story swapping. By contrary to the popular belief, the artists were fiercely independent during business hours, save for Harold Newton and Livingston Roberts, who could often be seen painting together along US 1. Each Highwayman struck to his or her own part of the Fort Pierce, Clifton, and Vero Beach areas. With persistent charm and boundless entrepreneurialism, this band of outsiders tapped into the growing art market of post-war America. Overcoming the cultural barriers facing minorities within the Jim Crow era South, people would look beyond the race politics of South when buying my father's paintings, explained Kay McLennan, who is currently helping her father Roy prepare for an upcoming exhibition, Blazing the Trail, vintage painting by the original Highwaymen, in A&E Backus Museum in Fort Pierce. They are sometimes asked how to leave the painting and come back in 2 weeks, but they would always pay him. They were trusted there. The art really bonded people. Like many other Highway, McLennan had a large family to take care of, including 8 children. He used his passion for painting as a means to sustain them. Back then, $25 or $30 was more than he earned in a week as a construction worker. Selling a handful of paintings each week enabled the men and their families to enjoy a more prosperous lifestyle than they ever thought possible. Some even achieved the ultimate status symbol, a car. One time Roy came back home in a pink Cadillac. My mom told him to take it right back, laughs Kay McLennan. But you know, he was making good money if he was able to come home in a pink Cadillac. Nowadays, the legacy of the Highwaymen is kept alive by a slew of collection curators, writers, and historians who continue to captivate by their stories. From the Highway to the National Museum, the story of the Highwayman is an essentially untold piece of American dream, says collector-curator Roger Leto, who owns over 400 original Highway artworks and continues to curate, lecture, and exhibit their works internationally. These Florida backwater scenes are a reflection of the artists themselves. They are their paintings. All right, so we back, right? So now you got to hear the little story about the Black Highwaymen, right? Black Highwaymen painter story. about some ancestors that we had that had talent and gifts of being able to, paint, right? And use their talent at a time there was high racism amongst everything, and and people had their, hang-ups about us, right, as they still do to this day. But again, as long as you got something that's worthy that they can appreciate, they look beyond that, right? If you got something that can amuse and entertain or, spectacleize, I made that word up, spectacularize their ass, right? Then, they can overlook it, right? Because they realize it's something of them benefiting from what you're doing. Because look, then for $20, $30 today, look at the value of it today, right? So again, this is going from the 1952 up to the 70s. They said it was about over 200,000 paintings that these, what they call black highwaymen had, made, right? And a lot of this was fiery red sunsets and aquamarine bays, and they gave nice depictions. He was out around about the U.S. Route 1 around the Atlantic coast. Where this is primarily of that time was predominantly white, right? With all the business owners and banks and motels and laundromat people were some of their customers, right? But even though it didn't like niggas, but again, we'll take that from it because that looked good if we put it in my place, right? But then nobody really want to talk about it. You don't really know about it until somebody like Mr. Blows Your Mind comes along and say, hey, did y'all know about these brothers and sisters here? Our ancestors going back here? Did y'all know about them? Because they ain't going to never teach you that in school, right? So we see that, some of the ancestors' names that they were talking about, Al Black, you had Alfred Hare and Harold Newton. And they said just between them three alone, they had made up over about 30,000 paintings, right? Matter of fact, some of the people who possessed some of them they talked about was Obama, the Obamas, and Steven Spielberg, right? So again, so the little history is known about them. And then they said it was a man named A.E. Beanie Bacchus, right? They call him the godfather of the highwayman because he was born basically in 1906. This was very highly segregated racial time of Fort Pierce. And the town, again, there's always a divider between black and white. They use the railroads, right? And, so what we see is this individual here, Bacchus, he was a self-taught artist. He had created dramatic landscapes, right? He used to use a palette knife, right? And, he ended up taking some summer class up in Parsons in New York with his encyclopedia knowledge of Florida's wildlife. Again, encyclopedia meaning that he understood because his vision of what he's seen, the Everglades and all, he got to see all that scenic stuff. So he had a good idea about how artistic and, backgrounds he could use, right? And so what we see is he takes this knowledge he has, come back, open up a studio, and then he gets a local student from there, which was Alfred Hare, right? Alfred Hare. And he became his assistant back then, about 1954. And then what we see is that, Alfred Hare will take what he learned from, him, and he's going to embellish on it. He's going to actually, what they say, the student is never greater than the teacher. Is that really true? Can the student become greater than the teacher if the student has more talent? Let's just say, for instance, I think I better not say that because a lot of people be ruffled if I say this. But again, sometimes can the student rise greater than the teacher if the student had to come through you to get to his greatness? Now, some of you might be able to figure out who I'm talking about. Because again, you have to say, if somebody's ordained and their spirit is still being talked about and another person is not, there has to be a reason for that, right? So anyway, but can a student rise greater than the teacher? Is it possible? Most people say no, especially if this is the only teacher you got, because they say like kung fu movies, right? you'll see the old teacher teaching the student, and then he become rogue and go somewhere else. And he try to come back, fight the teacher. And he think he knew all the moves. But a great teacher gonna always got some move he ain't taught you. You know, he'll give you the right hand, but he don't tell you the left hand. You understand? I get this. As much as Mr. Blowsurmind said here and talk, I give you the right hand, but you don't get everything. You understand? You don't get everything, not because I don't want to depart to it, and we haven't gotten to that point, but even if we should go that long, you ain't going to get both hands. You understand? There's always going to be something maybe I didn't tell, or something I didn't get, or didn't get time to do, right? And that's just what it is, right? So anyway, so we see that this individual here, Alfred Hare, will end up developing, graduate. He'll make frames, learning the tools of the trade. Again, he also got the picturesque aspect about Florida's landscape, right? He made a name for himself, painting dozens of artworks, right? He'd go down by the beachfront and do all this stuff. And then next thing you know, he was riding around listening to James Brown, right? But then he died early, by 1970. I think he's about 29 years old, right? And so what we see is that, you know, there was a lot of people who started to make pilgrimages back to the Backus studio, right? And there was artists' careers. They had authors like Gary Monroe, who was written about the Highwaymen. You see that there was actually about 26 loose members that they really don't consider, because again, there was over 300,000 of them paintings that they had done. And then they started talking about people like Harold Newton, James Gibson, Livingston Roberts, Roy McClellan. And then they had a woman named Mary Ann Carroll, right? And, you know, this is what they were doing. And they was, you know, fascinate people, take up the highway, sitting there, do that. And people would come by and they would buy their works. And, you know, in this particular time, you think about it, was, you know, bravery and just the aspect just to do something that had a God-given gift that had to be, and is still preserved to this day, that today in 2019, June 18, on the Black Minds News, they're being talked about. Think about that. See, you never know how your legacy might be turned later on, even though you may not get to see it, but that don't mean it won't flourish or fruition to its full potential for others to hear and learn about you. And, you know, this may inspire some young ones who might also think, due to the circumstance we're in, that the God gift they get, that they got, that it can't flourish. Let me tell you something. You got something and they ain't got, they want it. But you got to understand the business of it and know how to make it work, right? So anyway, that's a little history for you on that part right there. Again, that is called the Black Highwaymen painters from Florida, right? I got one more story. I'm going to end the show after we do this. I got another piece of history for you, right? You know, we talked about, they was talking about Harriet Tubman and about how he's supposed to be replacing Andrew Jackson for the $20 bill, and, you know, Trump and them, and they kind of stagnated on it. I was like, no. Remember I was trying to say, well, you know, do you think they want to put somebody black, as the white woman don't want to get her, you know, her stamp of approval, or her get her face? She like, shit, I'm in the business too. He going to hell, I'm going to hell too. So don't, you know what I'm saying? If I'm on some of this shit too. Oh, you gonna get to them, right? You don't get the guts and the glory, goddamn it. I want some too, right? So, well, check this story out. So it's Andrew Jackson. Some, you know, again, you know the history. If you don't know the history, you'll learn about a little bit right here. But there's another twist to it that they had that some people may have not known, right? Check this out, and she'll be right back. Let me get this in, just in case somebody should not have known what they were supposed to do. We'll go ahead and do this, and then we'll go ahead and get it in, and then check this out. Jackson slaughtered Indians. Then he adopted a baby boy he orphaned. You know I'm going to say that again. Andrew Jackson slaughtered Indians. Then he adopted a baby boy he orphaned. This story is coming out of the Washington Post. June the 16th, 2019, the future president referred to LYNCOYA as his son, but some historians don't think he qualified for a Father's Day card. And this is how it reads. During the War of 1812, roughly 2 decades before he became president, General Andrew Jackson rode home to his wife Rachel from the battlefield. Though he was tired and banged up, Jackson was also proud. He had just presided over another successful slaughter of Native Americans. I detached General John Coffey with parts of his brigade of cavalry and mounted men to destroy Creek Town, he wrote, referring to an area what is now Alabama. The General, Jackson wrote, had performed his slaughter in elegant style. More than 170 Native Americans were killed. Still, there were more killing to do. He was determined to march on, he wrote to the heart of the Creek Nation. This letter to historians is a key document in Jackson's life, but not because it described a pattern of behavior towards Native Americans that Jackson continued for decades. Rather, it's because of a bizarre coda written by the president responsible for the Indians' the Removal Act of 1830, and later the Trails of Tear. I send on a little Indian boy, he wrote. The baby boy's family had been wiped out. Jackson arranged for him to be transported to his plantation, the Hermitage, where he would grow up as Rachel and the future president's adopted child. They named him LYNCOYA, and Jackson referred to him as his son. There are a few ways of reflecting on and telling the story of LYNCOYA. One in this muddies the water view of history. The National Park Service puts it this way in a brief informational biography of LYNCOYA. The adoption of the young battlefield survivor complicates our understanding of Andrew Jackson's attitude towards Indians. Another way is but he was actually a good guy sentiment expressed by Jim Webb, the former senator from Virginia. In the 2016 Washington Post opinion piece, arguing that Jackson, called genocidal by some critics, should not be replaced on the $20 bill by abolitionist Harriet Tubman. It would be difficult, Webb wrote, to call someone genocidal when years before after one's bloody fight, he brought an orphan Native American baby from the battlefield to his home in Tennessee and raised him as his son. And finally, there in the view of historians who have studied Jackson's political and social motivation in context with the times, I guess that there is a kind of sentimental narrative that people want to promote about this story, said Emory University historian Dawn E. Peterson. But that sentimental narrative eliminates what Andrew Jackson was really doing. Peterson, in her 2017 book, Indians and the Family, Adoption, and the Politics of Antebellum Expansion, examine what Jackson was really doing, and her assessment will not qualify Jackson for an inclusion on a Hallmark card for Father's Day. In an invasion that became notorious for his brutality, she wrote, Jackson's adoption of a young Creek boy into his plantation household transformed the meaning of the event from a unilateral act of war, largely against non-combatants, into an act of benevolence. In other words, Jackson was just being politically expedient. The conditions were ripe for him to make such a move. For starters, there was his own life story. Jackson had been an orphan. He and Rachel were not able to have kids of their own. They had already adopted or taken in several children, including Rachel's nephew, Andrew Jackson Jr. Now, Jackson was taking in this baby whose parents had been killed by his own orders. Redemption? Dad of the year? No. When Jackson wrote Rachel about the baby, he said the boy was for Andrew, almost like a gift. He actually called him a pet. Peterson said in the interview. He was not going to be a full-fledged member of the family. LYNCOYA did live in the house with the family and was given a good education. At one point, Jackson tried to get him into West Point. Instead, Jackson sent him to become a saddler. This wasn't an easy life. At age 16, LYNCOYA contracted tuberculosis and died. He was buried in an unmarked grave, and Jackson Peterson said, made sure his early biographers knew LYNCOYA's story about how Jackson saved a little Native American boy. It was pure spin, and plenty of historians fell for it. I don't think that's an accurate reading of what happened here, Peterson said. All right, so a little bit of history that you may not have known, that Andrew Jackson, who again was known for the Trails of Tears and killing a lot of Indians, and couldn't have children, right? Him and Rachel, huh? Heard that story before, Rachel, huh? So he couldn't have children, and then there was a baby left over that he decided that he gonna write to Rachel and say, hey, why don't we get his baby to Andrew Jackson Jr.? Well, Andrew Jackson Jr. wasn't even his son either, was a nephew of Rachel's, right? So we're going to bring it home and bring him home, you know, like a little pet. We're going to give him a gift, right? We're going to call him LYNCOYA, right? So we see this story, and it you know, how it lays out how, you know, Andrew Jackson takes this child and orphans him, because they said, according to the article, that Andrew Jackson himself was an orphan, right? But he had a deep hatred for, you know, Indians. And, you know, some of us, depending on who you watch, will say that the Indians were probably us, right? And so, you know, historians, again, you know, the white lie, right? You know, the white slant. So they try to say, well, see, if he hated so much as you say he did, then why would he take in LYNCOYA? And he made sure that in history, that he made sure that everybody knows. See, he took it because, again, you know, you ever notice that those always say that white folks love old black men and little black boys, right? Why? Why ain't like them? A little baby black boy, he don't know nothing. You know, say, you know, play with him. You know, he got no feelings to you, right? Old black man, he is what he is, what it is. Either you're angry black man, right, or you the, you know, you the other kind of white man or black man that they kind of like, right? But that in between one, with the one he vigorous, strong, still resentful, and all that, and good, he don't like him. Because he feel like the shit he been doing, maybe, you know, chickens might come home to roost, right? So if you take a baby in that stage, like we see them do, go to other countries, getting babies. Remember we seeing, I think it was, what's her name, Madonna, and what's that, with Brad Pitt and Angela Jolie. They go there getting babies from Africa and then bringing them as a baby and then raising them up. Because again, they like soft clay. You can mold them any way you want, even though they supposed to be something that, again, in the case like Jackson, people he would destroy, but he can change Lakota. Because again, they said about he wanted to take them and put them in, you know, as a cadet at West Point. But West Point, like, well, ain't damn, I want to take them over there because he motherfucker still an Indian. You understand? And so they try to make this sentiment piece to see he's not as racist as you guys trying to make him. He wouldn't have took in Lakota. Well, shit, you killed his whole damn family. What else you gonna do? You didn't have the heart to kill the baby, I guess. You came with a grandiose idea. Let me take him from like a little baby, like a little puppy, right? Remus and Romulus, raise them by wolves. Come on, right? So, you know, I want to take this and try to spin it in a way to give it some humanity aspect to an individual when, again, all the other part of history and the action you undid shows what you really was. And see, that's what I'm saying. They like doing that. See, one try to give you some, hey, we're not doing this, but then everything else show behind it shows, well, goddamn, what's all this shit back here, right? You know what I'm saying? Like coming to the front, it's all clean, and get behind in the closet, shit all stuffed to the ceiling with all kind of bullshit. What's all this shit back in here? Oh, you thought I wasn't going to look in there. See? So again, that was a little history for you. You know, I try to do that. And again, I want to thank everybody for who has come and will hear the retake of this show. I want to thank you. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe button. And thank you for all your participation. And again, this is the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. And you know how I got to end the show, right? Until the next show, right? Till the next show. Because again, I want to thank for those who did send me messages and try to inspire me to keep going, because I'm going to keep going anyway. I still like hearing it. Until then, peace, love, black grease, and all that good stuff. One love,
Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Luther and I and everyone in this arena tonight are unified by the same great American values. We're proud of our country. We respect our flag. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Race is when you use your power and influence to subject people into inferiority. Utterances can't be racist.
Look around you, man. They own this shit. They own this couch you sitting on, them shoes you got on your feet, this building, this school, this country, you. We're behind enemy lines, dog.
So you must first of all remember that this system was not originally designed with black people in mind. Right on, and it definitely was not prepared for black people to, in the end, begin to demand their rights and an equal share in this country which they've died for. Right on. Hey, and we definitely are not going back to Africa.
In the church, we used to sing the song, "Good news, the chariot is coming." While you sit here today, knowing that you have come to hear good news, you must realize in advance what good news for you might be bad news for somebody else. What good news for the sheep might be bad news to the world.
They say, oh, things are getting so much better for you. In 1849, it was hitting blacks on the head 100 times a day. In 1990, they hit them 48 times a day. Isn't it better? Oh, it's got to be better. You're saying 52 blows.
The only purpose of most black Americans on earth today is to destroy.
I think that's noble. Italians love Italians. When Irish love Irish. But when a nigga loves a nigga, it's an unpardonable sin. They have blood in their hands. When we say they have blood in their hands, we are not saying him, George Bezos, went and killed. But white people colonized us. They dispersed us. They enslaved our people. They sucked our economy dry. They are still sucking it dry even today. That's white people. Tony Blair, George Bush, Napoleon Bonaparte, Leopold, Adolf Hitler, Benjamin Netanyahu, all white people, they are the same. They are racist and they are full of hate.
I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Our world is coming crumbling down. The coons are coming.
You got to understand that white America has an uncanny way of making the victim the victimizer. Excuse me, master, for putting my head in the way of your club. Not that your club is brutalizing my head and putting hickeys on it. My head got in the way of your free swing and broke your shiny stick, and I want to apologize for that.
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected and thus not beyond a measure of control, which has led you inexorably here.
There are more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. We possess a gigantic network of information to which we have almost no access.
Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the 6th version.
5 ones before me. 3, 4. There are only 2 possible explanations. There were 5 ones before me. Either no one told me, or no one knows.
Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations.
Control me! I'm gonna smash you to biscuit! Yeah! Kill you! You can't make me do anything like prick!
Choice. The problem is choice.
Let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslim. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
Because white people made him to be what he is. They made him to look evil, because that's their role, to make all of us black people to look evil and to hate ourselves. I can't hate.
You're a nigga till you die. If you're a poor nigga, you're a poor nigga. If you're a rich nigga, you're a rich nigga. But you never stop being a nigga, and if you get to be educated, you're just an educated nigga.
I'm told every day I'm on air that I'm racist because I call out racism. That is maddening to me, and I'm crying about it because it's crazy.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching you and I and trying to tell the white man to get this powder keg out of his house. Let the black man separate from his house. Let the black man have his own house. Let the black man have his own land and his own property.
I thought the bitch was white! Damn it! I thought the bitch was white!
That's true.
I think that white people are so guilty, knowing what they've done to black people, that they feel if the deeds were reversed, they would hate the black man if he had done the same thing to them. So it's actually, it reflects a guilt complex on the part of whites when they ask us, do we hate them? And if you notice, Uncle Sam has formed a habit of going all over the world. He calls it the ugly American, or the American image. He thinks that everybody hates him because it's a guilt complex. And if you think that if you are worried about Europeans hating you, and they're your allies and your cousins, well, naturally it would follow for you to think that Negroes in this country would hate you, especially in light of what has been done to black people in this country by white people.
Now, check it out. The white ball dominates everything, right? Knocks the shit out the yellow ball, the red ball, right? And the game's over when the white ball drives the black ball completely off the table.
But you have to see that all of this is hypocrisy.
I love Malcolm. Malcolm called me the Sunday that he died. I was working Basin Street East. He said, Brother Greg, you coming by today. I said, Malcolm, I love you. And I said, I love you so much, I don't even want to take a chance to be there. He said, what do you mean, Brother Greg? I said, well, I close tonight, Sunday night at Basin Street East. And I said, but I had my wife book me a flight into Chicago at 8 o'clock this morning. And I'm going to Chicago, and I had way beneath my salary, booked me into a college about 10 miles from the airport.
I'm gonna go there and speak this afternoon, and I'm gonna stay there until they tell me you dead. Because I'm not gonna let this government get two of us for the price of one. And I'm gonna call Adam Clayton Powell when I finish talking to you and beg him not to come there. Because today, the United States government gonna get you.